The stars twinkled above the quiet village of Leora, nestled between the hills and thick silver-leaf forests. Most children were tucked in bed, listening to bedtime stories about space adventures and magical lands. But one curious girl named Luma sat by her window, gazing at the night sky with wonder in her eyes. She loved the stars more than anything else. They felt like old friends, always shining, always watching. Suddenly, a flash of light zipped across the sky, brighter than any star or shooting comet she had ever seen. It was fast, fiery, and strange. With a whoosh and a low hum, it streaked downward until it vanished behind the forest ridge. A few seconds later, the ground trembled softly beneath her bare feet. Something had landed, crashed into the forest. Luma's heart raced. She wanted to wake her parents, but they were fast asleep. And even if she did, she knew what they would say. It's just a meteor. Go back to bed. But Luma felt something deep inside her upphole, a sense that this was not just a rock from space. This was something more, something waiting to be discovered. Grabbing her flashlight and slipping on her boots, Luma tiptoed down the stairs and out into the cool night. The village was quiet, and not a single window was lit. She crept past the garden fence, across the field, and into the woods. The trees whispered around her, and the wind carried the smell of burning metal and earth. As she moved closer to the crash site, the trees began to glow with a soft blue light. It wasn't the moonlight. It was something else, something alive. Her flashlight flickered and died, but she didn't need it anymore. The glowing trail lit the way. Soon, she reached a small clearing. In the middle of it lay a strange object, smooth and pulsing with blue and purple light. It looked like a giant pearl with lines of silver running across its surface, humming like it was breathing. Luma stepped closer, holding her breath. She reached out to touch it, but just before her fingers met the surface, the orb opened slightly with a quiet hiss. A soft voice echoed in her mind, calm and clear. "Are you the brave one?" Luma froze. She looked around, but there was no one else. The voice came not through her ears, but directly into her thoughts. I think so," she whispered. "You came alone when others hid. That is bravery. You are the one I was sent to find." The orb shimmered and floated a few inches above the ground. Inside, lights moved like stardust, forming shapes and waves. "Danger is coming, not just to your village, but to your entire planet. I have come to warn and to prepare." Luma blinked. "Prepare for what?" The orb spun gently. "For a test of courage. Shadows move among the stars, feeding on fear. Only the brave, the kind, and the wise can stop them." Luma stepped back. Her heart pounded. She was just a kid. How could she stop anything? "You don't have to understand everything now," said the voice. "You only have to take the first step." The orb glowed brighter, and a beam of light shot upward, disappearing into the sky. Luma felt the ground shift slightly beneath her feet. Something big had just begun, and she was a part of it. Somewhere deep in space, something stirred in response. But Luma didn't know that yet. All she knew was that she had seen something no one else had, and that she couldn't turn back now. Luma returned to the forest clearing the next night, unable to think of anything else since her first encounter with the glowing orb. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those silver lines, felt that pulsing light, and heard the voice echoing in her mind. She didn't know why, but something inside her told her she had to go back. The trees seemed quieter this time, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. The air shimmered, faintly, and as she stepped into the clearing, the strange object floated gently above the scorched earth where it had landed. It looked different, now smaller, as if it had shifted its shape. "Welcome, Luma," the voice spoke again, inside her mind, as clear as if someone were whispering in her ear. She didn't jump this time. She was still afraid, but it was a different kind of fear, like the kind you feel when you know you're about to do something important. "Are you alive?" she asked quietly. The object hovered closer. "I am not alive as you are. I am a memory stone, created by the Starborn. My name is Born. They are beings of light who protect galaxies. Long ago, they placed memory stones on young planets just in case the darkness ever returned, and now it has." Luma's fingers twitched at her side. "What kind of darkness? Creatures born from fear? They feed on doubt, sadness, and panic. They drift through space, invisible, until they find a world weak enough to invade. Your world is full of wonder, but also fear. They sense it growing." Luma swallowed hard. "And you want me to stop them? You are the first to answer the stone's call. That takes courage. But you won't be alone." A panel on the orb slid open, and a small shard of glowing crystal floated out. It hovered in front of her chest. "This is a light key," Auri explained. "With it, you can access the training chamber hidden from human eyes, far above your planet." Luma took a step back. "A training chamber? Like a spaceship?" "Something like that. But first, you must prove you can bond with the key. Hold out your hand." She hesitated. What if it hurt her? What if it was all a dream and she'd wake up the moment she touched it? But something about the way the crystal glowed warm, not sharp, made her believe it was safe. She reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the key, it flashed with golden light and flew into her chest, not through her skin, into her heart. She gasped, but it didn't hurt. Instead, Her body felt lighter, and her eyes began to see more than before. She could see tiny particles in the air, glowing trails left behind by trees, insects, and even birds overhead. "The key has accepted you," Ori said. "Now we begin." A circle of light appeared beneath Luma's feet, and slowly, gently, she rose into the air. The world below shrank as stars above opened like doors. She wasn't dreaming, she was leaving Earth. As she passed through a beam of energy, a strange but peaceful hum surrounded her. In moments, she found herself inside a shimmering bubble floating in space, orbiting what looked like Jupiter. Stars twinkled around her, and the Earth was now a distant blue marble. There in the chamber floated a tall, silvery figure with soft blue lights in its eyes. Its arms folded gently as it bowed. "I am Zarn," the figure said. "Trainer of Guardians. Welcome, Luma of Earth. The stars have been waiting for you." Luma's mouth dropped open. She looked around at the swirling galaxies and the high-tech equipment around her. She wasn't just in a new place, she was part of something far bigger than she had ever imagined. Luma stood in silent awe as the shimmering chamber surrounded her. The walls weren't made of metal or glass, but of light, soft, flowing, and alive. Tiny constellations drifted around her, like holograms woven into the air. She could see planets rotating, stars forming, and comets racing by, as if the whole galaxy had been invited to greet her. Zarn, the tall silvery figure with glowing blue eyes, approached her calmly. Though he looked like a machine, his voice was warm and full of kindness. "You are far from home," he said, "but you are exactly where you need to be." Luma blinked, still unsure if she should be scared or excited. "What is this place?" "This is the Starborn Training Chamber, a place where young minds are prepared for great challenges. You've been chosen because your heart is strong. Not everyone can hear the call of a memory stone. Only the brave can." Luma looked down at herself. Her clothes were gone, replaced by a sleek silver suit with glowing blue lines. She flexed her fingers, and the suit responded, adjusting to her movements like it was alive. Zarn gestured, and a glowing doorway opened. "Your training begins now. You will need 3 things to face the darkness: knowledge, heart, and focus." As she stepped through the portal, Luma found herself standing on what looked like a floating rock in the middle of space. Dozens of small drones zipped around her, and a holographic screen blinked into view. "Lesson 1, said Zarn, appearing beside her. "The universe is not just stars and planets. It is made of energy, and so are you." A beam of light shot toward her chest. It didn't burn, but she felt it deep inside, awakening something she didn't know was there. Suddenly, she saw threads of glowing energy connecting everything: the rock beneath her, the stars above, and even Zarn himself. "You are part of the same fabric," Zarn said. "When you understand that, fear becomes smaller." Luma tried to focus. A floating cube zipped toward her. "Use your inner light to move the object," Zarn instructed. She stared at the cube, squinting hard. Nothing happened. "Not with your eyes," he said gently, "with your belief." She took a deep breath. She remembered how she felt when she followed the light trail into the forest, when she touched the key, when she floated into space. She remembered not knowing what would happen, but moving forward anyway. The cube trembled, and then slowly drifted upward, glowing as her fingers moved gently in the air. "You're doing it," Zarn said. "You're learning to connect." Day after day, Luma trained inside the chamber. She learned to fly short distances using her suit, to understand signals from faraway worlds, and to calm her mind so fear couldn't control her. She even made a friend, a tiny round robot named Pib, who chirped, laughed, and followed her around, like a bouncing bubble of joy. But her training wasn't easy. Sometimes she failed, sometimes she cried. There were times when her energy wavered, and she felt like she didn't belong there at all. Even the bravest fall. Zarn reminded her one evening, when she couldn't lift a large crystal weight during training. "But true courage is standing back up." She looked at him, tired but determined. "Then I'll stand up, as many times as it takes." Zarn placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. That is the heart of a guardian. As the stars outside the chamber spun slowly in space, Luma stared out the window, wondering when her real mission would begin. She didn't know what the shadow creatures looked like, or what they were capable of, but she knew one thing for sure: she would be ready. The day came sooner than Luma expected. She was in the meditation chamber, practicing quiet focus, when the walls suddenly dimmed. A deep thrumming sound echoed through the space station, and every light flickered, like a heartbeat stuttering. Pib let out a worried beep and floated nervously around her. Zarn entered quickly, his usual calm now lined with urgency. "The shadows have reached Nebulanine," he said. "A colony on the edge of the Androlan system has gone silent. We've lost all communication. You must go there, Luma." Luma stood, heart racing, alone. "You won't be alone. Pib will go with you, and I will guide you through your communicator. But this will be your first true mission, your first step into the unknown." A moment later, Luma stood aboard a small starcraft designed for speed and stealth. It shimmered like quicksilver and responded to her touch through the light key. With Pib secured beside her and Zarn's voice in her ear, the ship shot into hyperspace, streaking toward the danger like a comet on fire. When the ship exited the jump, Luma gasped. Nebula 9 was supposed to be a vibrant planet, glowing with bright clouds of color and surrounded by floating crystal satellites. Now it was dark. The once colorful clouds had turned gray, and the surface looked cracked and silent, as if something had drained the life from it. "This is what the shadows do," Zarn said. "They don't destroy with fire or force, they feed on fear, and leave silence in their wake." Luma landed the ship near a large crystal city. Everything was still. The buildings glowed faintly, but no one moved. Pib hovered close to her, blinking nervously. She stepped cautiously through the main street, where holographic signs flickered and strange sounds echoed in the distance to whispers, almost like crying. Then she saw them, tall, dark figures with no faces. Their bodies rippled like smoke, and their edges dissolved into the air. They glided silently across the ground, searching, reaching, but not with eyes or hands. They felt the fear in the air. Feeding on it, Luma held her breath and pressed against a wall. "What do I do, Zarn?" she whispered. "Stay calm. Remember your training. Shadows can't touch the light unless the light forgets it's there." One of the creatures turned toward her, though it had no eyes. She felt it sense her fear. It floated closer. She closed her eyes and tried to remember everything Zarn had taught her. Her breath, her belief, the energy threads connecting her to the stars, to Earth, to Pib. She reached into her heart, where the light key rested. A soft warmth began to build. The creature reached out a wispy hand and Luma opened her eyes, now glowing with inner light. She raised her hand and let the energy flow. A wave of soft golden light burst from her chest, not violent or loud, but warm and steady like sunrise. The shadow recoiled. It hissed silently, its form unraveling into vapor. The others paused, sensing the change. Pib chirped with joy, flying in spirals around her. The shadows weren't destroyed, but they retreated, melting into the cracks and corners of the city as the light around her spread. Doors opened. Beings of Nebula 9 slowly stepped out, eyes wide and full of confusion. They had been trapped in their own fear, unable to move, speak, or even hope. But now, something had changed. A little girl with blue skin and glowing eyes approached Luma. "You brought the light back," she said softly. Luma knelt beside her. "No," she said with a smile. "You already had the light. You just needed to remember it." Above the city, the gray clouds began to fade, replaced by soft color and motion. The nebula shimmered again. Healing, Luma looked up, realizing something important. This mission wasn't just about stopping darkness. It was about helping others find the courage to shine. Luma's return from Nebula 9 was met with quiet awe. The starborn chamber pulsed with gentle light, a sign of approval and celebration. Even Zarn, usually calm and reserved, bowed his head. "With pride, you've done more than complete your mission," he said. "You've awakened hope. That is the rarest and brightest light of all." But there was no time to rest. The victory on Nebula 9 had stirred something deeper in the darkness. A presence stronger than the shadows had begun to rise. The memory stone, Auri, pulsed urgently with a message. The Shadow King had awakened. He was ancient, older than any star still burning. A being formed not just from fear, but from forgotten dreams and lost belief. Wherever he went, stars dimmed. Planets turned cold. Voices grew silent. "He feeds on hopelessness," Auri explained. "And now, he knows about you." Luma felt the weight of the words settle on her shoulders. A year ago, she'd been a simple village girl who stargazed before bedtime. Now she was the galaxy's last hope to stop an ancient force of darkness. But she didn't feel alone, not anymore. She had Zarn, Pib, Auri, and most importantly, the belief she had built within herself. The Shadow King was last seen near a dying star called Solarix 5, where he had begun twisting the light itself into darkness. If he consumed the star, its energy would fuel his ability to cloak entire systems in shadow. Luma knew she had to go. As she approached the darkened system, her starship trembled. The space around Solarix 5 felt wrong, quiet, thick, heavy. Stars nearby looked dim, like they were holding their breath. And at the center of it all, floating in space like a twisted crown, was the Shadow King. He had no form Luma could fully understand. He was made of thick clouds, shifting eyes, and whispers. When he spoke, it was not one voice, but many: doubt, fear, anger, sadness, all wrapped into one echoing presence. "You think your little light can stop me?" he hissed. "You are a child. I have swallowed stars older than your galaxy." Luma stepped out of her ship and floated forward, her suit glowing with golden veins of light. Pib hovered beside her, trembling. "I'm not just one light," she said firmly. "I carry the courage of every world you've tried to darken. I've seen fear, I have felt it. But it didn't win then, and it won't win now." The Shadow King lunged. Waves of thick darkness surged toward her, filled with screaming winds and cold dread. For a moment she felt small again, like the girl alone in the forest, unsure and afraid. But then she remembered the girl on Nebula 9, the floating crystal in the woods. The moment she chose to step forward, not back, she closed her eyes and let go. Her heart burst with light, not harsh, not burning, but pure hopeful. From deep inside her, the light key awakened fully. A glowing sphere of golden white energy surrounded her and expanded, weaving together the dreams, laughter, kindness, and bravery of every life she had touched. The darkness struck, it then shattered. The Shadow King screamed, trying to gather himself, But the light only grew stronger. Luma opened her eyes, shining like twin stars. "You're not stronger than hope," she said. "You never were." With one final surge, her light reached the dying star behind him. Solarix 5 flared bright, its flame rekindled by her belief. The Shadow King shrieked as he was pulled into the brightness, piece by piece, until there was only silence and then peace. Luma floated alone, surrounded by stars that now shimmered again. A soft voice spoke inside her. "You are the bravest light in the universe," she smiled. Not because she had won, but because she knew others would rise after her. Bravery didn't belong to heroes. It lived in every heart that chose light, even when darkness was easier, and that light would never fade.